passes $886 billion defense policy bill, Biden to sign into law. Now, of course, all of the different stuff that has been going down in the last 48 hours, there's a lot about, of course, the money that has been going out the doors. This is a huge amount of money. It, I believe, is the largest in history. Of course, it always goes up. More than 2/3 of the U.S. House of Representatives voted in favor of a defense policy bill on Thursday that includes a record $886 billion. Just to say that again, $886 billion in annual military spending, and authorizes policies such as aid for Ukraine and pushback against China in the Indo-Pacific. The House backed the National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, by 310 to 118, with strong support from Republicans and Democrats. It was more than 2/3 majority required to pass the measure and send it to the White House for President JB to sign into law. It says, separate from the appropriations bills that set overnight spending levels, the NDAA authorizes everything from pay raises for troops, and this year's will be 5.2%, to purchases of ships, ammunition, and aircraft. So that is a giant amount of money, and I don't think many people wonder why they're spending more than ever on all of the defense. Because it is one of the few major pieces of legislation that becomes law every year, members of Congress use it as a vehicle for a wide range of initiatives. It is also closely watched by major defense companies such as Lockheed Martin, RTX Corps, and of course other firms that receive Department of Defense contracts. The vote for this year's bill, which is nearly 3,100 pages long and authorizes a record $886 billion, up 3% from last year, meant that Congress has passed an NDAA for 63 straight years. That's insane. We're going to talk about this and where that money may be going very, very soon, and a whole lot more on today's Marfoogle TV. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, remember, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that you're going to find here today, including, of course, every single tweet, every single picture. Everything that we're going to have is right there at your fingertips. All the sources are archived and, of course, searchable years back. So make sure to go utilize that. You can use it for your own needs, again, and you can actually read the rest of it or grab a second device and read along. Make sure to also go check out marfooglenews.com/friends. You have a lot of really, really great people over there. All of our mods are on that very first chunk, and then all of our friends are down below. These are all great channels that you should check out that we've worked with or had on the show over the years, so make sure to go and subscribe. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So how is everybody doing? Thank you, Kimbria, Skyhouse. Thank you, Priscilla R, Fractured Fusion. Thank you, Chance, for starting out. It looks like DLive has now changed out the lemons for Christmas bells. That's awesome. Thank you, Jonathan Floming, Briar Patch. Let's see here. Stephen McMahon, thank you. CJ Blaze, hey, nice to see you, CJ. And then make sure to check out CJ Blaze over on marfooglenews.com/friends. She has a great channel. Make sure to subscribe. And then Laura Gittens, Saul DePaul, Nickel Wise. We have 3 Kid Mom over on DLive. We've got all sorts of great people. We'll do a roll call after a few stories here. So first of all, the $886 billion is a giant amount of money. And it's no wonder. We just did a video over on Marfoogle TV, Marfoogle News, about how they are trying to list Cascadia as a moderately low risk or relatively moderate risk. Essentially, that bureaucratically, I bet you, is going to put that as a lower priority so they don't have to put so much money into trying to prepare for it. Things like that, that's not the only thing that's probably getting, the shaft right now. You're probably going to see infrastructure and bridges and, potholes and all sorts of other things get basically kicked down the road. The can is going to be kicked down the road. As far as we have so many problems coming up, they're basically putting all of our money into the defense budget, which is absolutely nuts. Speaking of which, Dex, do you want to talk about Iran warns that U.S. will face problems with the Red Sea task force plans?
Yeah, sure. And real quick on the NDAA, there's 2 other things in there. One was they extended a 4-month extension of the FISA program, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. So that was supposed to be coming to an end, and they extended it to allow, I guess, the lawmakers more time to either reform and keep the program or ditch it. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But they did sneak that one in, as well as 300 million for UKR, which is not a lot compared to the 60 something billion they're trying to get passed for them. But there was that small amount. As far as the Red Sea, it appears now with the continuation of attack after attack after attack, in there that the U.S. is trying, a U.S. National Security Advisor told other reporters, they're trying to build a coalition of countries to basically create a task force in that area. And if they build that task force or if they build that coalition to manage the Red Sea, that is something that Iran is not going to be very happy with. And that's what they're saying. They're going to face a lot of problems. Now, there are countries, Yemen and others that are along that area in the Red Sea that are very much aligned with Iran. It's very difficult. Those waters are not some of the easiest waters to go through due to security. A lot of times you won't see a single military ship go through. They're always escorted with others, and when they're heading towards the Suez Canal there. So that area can be pretty contentious. And so yeah, this is a big deal. And I think if you look at that map that's in this article and you put that on screen, you can see where our current activity is. We actually have quite a bit hanging out in the Red Sea right now, as well as even in the Gulf of Aden down below. So you think about the activity that we've had outside of the big carrier groups that we know that are sitting outside of Israel and sitting over in near the Strait of Hormuz up into the Gulf there, having all of the other activity that we've got going on hanging out in the Red Sea, pretty significant.
And it's what is this up in the Strait of Hormuz? Let me look at this real quick. That's the amphibious. Oh no, that is the Dwight D. Eisenhower. So that is
yeah,
that
the 2 carriers. We've got one there and one over in the Mediterranean.
So that in the Strait of Hormuz, obviously a lot of us are watching the Strait of Hormuz because there's been a long rumored, accident to happen there or some sort of event. You have the Dwight D. Eisenhower there. And then, of course, you have the Thomas Hudner down by the entrance. You have, and then the Gerald R. Ford right by the Strip in Israel. So yeah, it's been getting crazier and crazier day by day, And then U.S. destroyer in Red Sea shoots down another Houthi drone. So every time this happens, obviously, there's not much Houthi could do by themselves against us. But this is definitely something, Iran is possibly, or I'm sorry, funding the Houthis. I shouldn't say possibly, but we don't know what the heck is going on over there. It says U.S. Navy destroyer USS Mason shot down a Houthi drone coming out of Yemen on Wednesday, a U.S. defense official told Fox News. The drone was headed towards USS Mason, which was responding to reports that Houthis were attacking the tanker Ardmore Encounter by using skiffs and then firing 2 missiles that missed, according to the official. No damage or injuries were initially reported, and the Ardmore Encounter went on its way. The incident occurred around 8 a.m. Sanaa time. A Pentagon official confirmed to Fox News that the 2 missiles were anti-ship ballistic missiles fired from ground-based locations in Yemen. Information was not immediately available on what type of drone was involved, but the defense officials suspected it was a one-way attack drone. So, a one-way attack drone, that's a good way, easy way of, I wouldn't say, I don't know if it's a suicide drone. It's probably a bigger drone that just goes one way, runs out of gas, and they ditch it, right? And it can deliver something. Or it's strapped with the explosives itself, but pretty crazy. And then Hamas plot to carry out attack on civilians in Europe is foiled as Danish cops arrest 7 suspects who were operating on behalf of terror group, Israel claims. So if we are to believe this, and again, I wouldn't doubt that there are things going on right now, but I also worry about 3-letter agencies making things like this happen, or there's some sort of 4D chess going on in the background to have some sort of event happen to change things and to get the whole world up in a tizzy, and then of course change the way that our lives are run. Just what I'm saying. But again, they say that they had a plot to carry out a huge attack in Europe, and they said that they caught them. Now, they caught these guys, but what about all of the others that they haven't? But everybody is weary of believing anything like this because many of us believe that they are always trying to scare us into submission. But at this point, I think that they are shaping the narrative of what is happening. It doesn't mean that they're creating it. Israel said on Thursday that 7 people arrested by intelligence and law enforcement agencies in Denmark for planning an attack on civilians had operated on behalf of Hamas. Israel's Mossad spy agency said that the Danish agencies had exposed Hamas infrastructure on European soil. So remember what was covered yesterday, which said, well, and this has been going on for weeks, is they say that you really can't take out, even if you turned all of the strip into rubble, all of the other countries are saying you can't get rid of that group, right? It's kind of like ISIS or something else. It's partly an ideology. So you kill 3 of them, their family members, you create 4 more, right? And also they have these crazy tunnel systems, which we talked about yesterday. They most likely have tunnels outside of the country. In actual recordings of Hamas leaders, they have said that they were expecting them to come in. So they probably already left, or at least the really important ones, and then they're probably outside the gates teaching and bringing more people into the fold. Possibly even with the help of 3-letter agencies from Iran or from Israel or from CIA or somebody else. But their attacks on European soil, I'm expecting that there are going to be events, not only in Europe, but also in the USA. We went through a period after 2001. It was like 2001 to 2011. We had 10 years straight of we were always, wasn't it like you were just always waiting to see what the next event was going to be, whether it be some sort of boom boom on a train or some sort of grocery store event, or some sort of person walking into a church or doing this or that. I mean, it was like 10 years straight from 2001 to 2011. It seems like that's all on the way back. How much of it is real, I don't know. But again, the real thing that happened to all of us is laws changed. They put in Patriot Act. They put in all of these different changes and executive orders that changed our lives forever. So keep in mind, whether you believe, what is happening is real, orchestrated or not, it doesn't change the fact that the changes that affect all of us will be. So that's why preppers prep. This is why we are worried about, bigger events, whether it be put on by a circus or by a terror group. It says the suspects were arrested in Denmark and one in the Netherlands on suspicion of preparing a tea attack. Danish police on Thursday adding the moves followed a coordinated cross-border police effort. So they're saying that they found it. But Mossad basically caught this in Denmark, but they couldn't figure out that they were going to cross over in the first place. Kind of crazy. Dex, as far as like this group that got found, this is just one small little bubble of this, right? We've had more threats than Europe has directly towards the USA. So this and FBI has just recently said that there's more threats than we've ever seen from every angle. And DHS warned of a Christmas event, or was that FBI? DHS?
They all did. I think even IDF did, or Israel did. So, and I think yes, this is just one. This is not the one. There was not only one, and they found it. They've got many that they're tracking. Let's rephrase that. They have told us that there's many threats, both in Europe and here in America, from various groups that are, basically against the actions of Israel and against America for supporting them. So therefore, we're bound to see something, and that's what they're telling us. Now, whether or not you believe that, that's up to you. If you think it's orchestrated, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if something happens, it happens. And those things that do happen, no matter who did them, affect the people that they affect. So pay attention. Head on a swivel.
Well, look at this. And then they say there's no word yet on what the suspects' motives were, on whether they were in fact related to Hamas militancy or to far right groups. Have you noticed too, like, okay, what is the definition of that? If somebody just reads this, they go, oh, right. At this point, our president has said that word is a Republican nowadays. If you support T-Man, you are potentially mentally now linked to these people, right? That's insane how broad the use for far right is. Because you don't see in the media ever, oh, they were linked to a far left organization. You don't see that, even though that there's just as many nuts on both sides. I mean, just wanted to point that out. It's like they point out far right. Like these folks want to strap things to their chest and walk into a building. That's not the same thing, okay? If you compare the different kinds of far to this direction, then it's a little bit different. Before we move on, remember you can always go over and get yourself some backup food. If you don't have any food in your pantry, which most people don't. In fact, the average person has about 3 days of food in their fridge at any given time. I know that a lot of you are not that crazy. Many of you actually have great stores at home. But if you don't, this is highly recommended because this is one of the most affordable ways to get food in bulk. Again, we actually support several brands as far as freeze-dried food, but this one is the best bang for the buck. As far as being able to survive 3 months for this price is absolutely absurd. You get $200 off and or 25% depending on what time you watch this. There are all sorts of different sales that are going on, and especially right now for the Christmas month, you really need to check out what it is because it's current. It's always changing. But go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. It's all freeze-dried food that will last up to 25 plus years, and it's sealed in Mylar bags. And if you do get a 3-month, that is going to be then sealed in buckets as well. Now, they have smaller kits. You can just get a little bit at a time. You can get a 3-day kit for a go bag, 72-hour kit. You can get a week, you can get a month. Whatever you want to do, you can go do that. But 3-month kit is great because that's 3 months for one person. That's a month and a half for 2 people, or it is a month for 3 people. So you can easily do the math by how they have it set up of what you need. If you want to get 6 months for 4 people, that's how you can figure it out. And again, you're going to get a giant discount on it. Plus, you're going to be helping our channel. We're independent. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have our audience and, of course, our friends. So thank you guys. Marfooglenews.com/prep. Check them out. Of course, there's tons of great stuff over there. Highly recommend also looking at the Alexa Pure Pro. It's a water filtration system that can filter a ton of water in a very short amount of time. It is a very, very, very amazing unit as far as being able to handle pretty much any water filtration need. So go to marfooglenews.com/prep. And then Turkish lawmaker who suffered a heart attack after saying Israel will suffer the wrath of God has perished. It's been over the last couple days, by the way. Jacob Israel actually just posted a video on Twitter of a Hispanic singer that ended up with saying it will be beautiful, speaking about a song about God. 30 years old, and he passed away on stage. He just falls right over. Now I don't know if I believe was a little bit different, but this might have been a case of the smiting. I don't know. But what I will say is it's crazy timing. After he says that will suffer the wrath of God, then has a heart attack and perishes right there. At this point, I wouldn't put it past any, these guys are all very high up there. They could have been poisoned or something. But again, a Turkish lawmaker who suffered a heart attack on the floor of parliament immediately after gave a speech saying would not be able to escape the wrath of God for its conflict in the Strip has perished. So some say this is a sign that he was on the right side. Some say it was a sign that he was on the wrong side. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And that was Hassan Bitmez, 53, a member of parliament from the Islamist Sadist Partisi or Felicity Party, died Thursday at the Ankara City Hospital, Health Minister Fahrettin Koca announced. The perishing came days after Bitmez collapsed at the Turkish Grand National Assembly on Tuesday, immediately after criticizing the Turkish government's policy regarding the Israel-Hamas conflict. Yeah, pretty crazy to say the least. And then South Korea and Japan scrambles jets after Russia warplanes spotted entering Seoul's defense zone. Notice, it was China and Russia together flying over. So South Korea and both Japan, working very tight-knit now, both flew out. So you've got China and Russia and Seoul and Japan meeting each other. This is something I think we're going to see a whole lot more of. Dex, you have now Seoul and Japan working really tightly together, and you've got China and Russia working really tightly together. This is kind of exactly what we said we were going to start seeing.
Yeah, exactly. And no mention of North Korea in this one, but it won't surprise me to see that a continued use of him in this region. But in this particular case, it was China and Russia acting together and flying into the ADIZ, which is the Air Defense Identification Zones off the East Coast. It was specifically Korea's air defense zone. It flew into that time. It did not actually violate their territorial airspace. It was just the ADIZ, but that's enough to scramble military to go check it out and make sure that they do not come into their space, which is I think it usually means the space above its territory is extending 12 nautical miles from the coastline, according to this article. So, but yeah, we've seen, the tensions that are, ramping up in the theater in the Pacific. You kind of have to, if you don't think something's happening, you really have your head in the sand, because what's happening with the Philippines, and it's funny because everything's so quiet on Taiwan, but I really think what's happening is they're doing stuff in the Philippines. They may be doing stuff with North Korea and really specifically South Korea, which will eventually evolve Japan. They're going to do that probably to then swoop in and take Taiwan. And I think that will probably be the way it plays out. Just a total guess and opinion on my part, but the fact that there's so much happening right now in both locations, in the South China Sea as well as up north near the Koreas.
Yeah, and as far as Japan said that they would, if China involves Taiwan, Japan has made comments saying that we will do something about it with or without the U.S.'s help. So they have already changed their constitution and they're amending it to basically be an offensive country. So Japan is going to be a big part of World War III, because World War III, in my opinion, is going to be China, Taiwan, North and South Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran. Obviously, Israel is going to be involved. Everybody is going to be involved. They've all picked their sides. They're all getting ready. They are building on each other's countries. They're trading gear. They're trading weapons. They're getting set up. This is the setup stage. If you look at what they have given North Korea, as far as Russia and China, both giving North Korea weapons, North Korea then trading artillery shells. You've got them building, China and Russia building different military installations and spying facilities and training camps in Cuba. And then, of course, Venezuela now voting to take over their neighbor Guyana, and the U.S. supporting Guyana. I mean, it is set up to burn. We have a story here in a minute, too. It just made my brain go to France. France is obviously supposed to be on our side. Man, France is doing so many things that look like it's almost like Xi is their president there. Not even kidding. China does something, then France does it. China does something, then France takes a version of that and does it itself. It's really crazy. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. Do we have that? Did we get rid of that? If we can, maybe put that back. If I don't know if we put it in here. I'll find it either way. And then thank you everybody that has popped in. What I feel like I feel like I don't have it here. Yeah. Either way, France is starting to look like China. Let's see here. I'm staying their definition, not mine. Let's see here. Jammer 1, Briar Patch. Okay, let's do a quick roll call, just a general state. You can find other Foogle fam members in your area. Immediately have something in common. Debbie 357, nice to see you here. Thank you for joining us. Kathy Paiina, thank you. You have been here for now, what is it, 5 years or something? Thank you so much for making it. We've got Jungle J from Kentucky. We got Deplorable C Block from Missouri. We've got Johnson from Minnesota. Hey, Rip Curl, nice to see you. Dwayne Roberts from Indiana. We've got Occam's Razor from Texas. Katma'ina Bendinit. We've got Olympia, Washington, Marfoogle Bar and Brewing. CJ Blaze from Ohio. We've got Leo Seguros. We've got 707 Cali in the house. We've got Washington, Western Washington, Whatever Forever, Jennifer Mills. Carol from Alabama, Lorraine, Ohio, South Texas, Central Pennsylvania. Not too many people from Pennsylvania for some reason. And then Mr. E says, sorry, was lagged way, caught up on the stream. FEMA Region 10 in the house, FEMA Region 9, Lady L. We've got Mickle Wise and Portland, Oregon. And Unknown Woman channel from Canada. Nice to see some Canadians in the audience. Ariana Alanis Monkey, Mr. Monkeypox, and Tracy Q. Thank you guys for being here. Red Pilled is in the house. Says sleepy. Well, we'll get through it. We have a lot to get through, so we'll get right on it. I used to be in the library. Thank you for your support yesterday. I appreciate that. Mars World, Carol, thank you for the super chats this week. And then Liz W, Jen, a free elf. Thank you so much for the big support last week. Mishmouth, Bubba One, Stephen McMahon, Alex Hawkins, Julie Pilkerton, Carol White, and of course Danish Girl FG. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying your truck. Ariel's Cold Case Perspective, Merlin, and Grace for You too. Not to forget Ready, Set, Survive. Thank you guys. China condemns Canada's support for Philippines on South China Sea incidents. Translation, China told Trudeau, hey, stop that. And Trudeau was like, ow, owie. That's exactly how it sounded. Yeah, that was an actual recording. It wasn't me. Owie! That was not me. It was an actual recording of Trudeau. China condemned Canada's support for the Philippines over what it said were violations of China's sovereignty in the South China Sea, according to a statement by the Chinese embassy spokesman in Canada. The South China Sea is the common home of countries and in the region and should not become a hunting ground for Canada, the United States, and other countries to pursue their geopolitical interests, the statement said. Over the past few months, China and the Philippines have had several confrontations centered around the second Thomas Shoal, an atoll in the South China Sea. Isn't it funny, like how everything is been about this Thomas Shoal and less about Taiwan? It feels like a big kind of just sidestep, like they're totally trying to get everybody's mind off of Taiwan completely. And remember, China companies own huge swaths of our media. Even our news companies are owned in part by China, if not by shell companies that are run and powered by China. So this is pretty alarming, to say the least. Again, they're condemning Canada, but we'll see what Canada says in response. And then Russian drone attack on Ukraine violates NATO airspace over Romania, prompting German fighter jet response. We're seeing a lot of these kind of actions taking place now, which it's not anything out of the normal. This isn't stuff that scares preppers. We see all of the reactions and the jets scrambling and these kind of things over the last 10 years. It's happened a lot, but we're starting to see a lot of strange ones. Again, Russian drone attack on UKR violates NATO airspace over Romania. Romania is possibly going to be an important part of WW3, prompting German fighter jet response. You've got Germans getting involved. It says, although German crews identified Russian aircraft through visual contact, there was no NATO order to shoot them down. One drone exploded over Romania, preliminary data suggest. It said that the German Eurofighters scrambled in response to this Russian drone attack. Now, did it clarify what kind of Russian drone this was? What does Russia have as far as the drones? Do they have something like our Predator or something like our Dex? Do you know what kind of?
I think these are one-way drones. They're not surveillance drones.
Is this what they're getting from? It's not.
We're getting some from Iran, and
Yeah.
I think they have some others that they make.
So in the world of the one-way drones, which you've seen a lot of, isn't this the same kind of drone that might have landed in, hit the tractors type of thing? It seems like these drones could end up being, hitting the wrong spot and escalating stuff, and that's kind of a sign that it would. I mean, look at this, Dex. You've got Germany getting involved here. I wonder, if this could go really, really far south, if depending on, a couple hundred feet or a couple hundred miles off. I wonder if that's even a possible thing that could happen.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it was Germany, and maybe they were the ones that were on patrol, or they were the ones doing the protection at that moment for the NATO border, so to speak, right? Because they all work in concert together, or they have to, as far as some of them are under NATO control versus some of them are under their own country's controls, as far as the troops and the planes and the equipment. So, but yeah, this this is a big deal. They claim it exploded over it. They also see a excuse me. They also see a debris area or a crater that was just outside of Romania's border, so it would have been inside UKR. But it also is clear that they're targeting locations that are very close to border countries, NATO border countries like Romania. And that's very risky because if they end up flying over them, like it appears they're alleging they did here, that can easily, create an issue, especially if that drone ends up going down in that area and causing severe damage into a NATO country. It would be looked upon as an attack, and then that would be an Article 4 issue.
Article 4 discussion to go to Article 5, which is solution, right? So I guess, everybody's kind of holding their breath for some crazy event to happen. Debbie357 says, thank you for all the daily updates, Marf and Dex, and your amazing mods. May God keep you and yours safe and healthy. God bless. Thank you, Debbie. And Debbie357, thank you. Thank you for the super chat. And then Sarah B, thank you for your super sticker as well. Love the emoji there. And then thank you, Derringer. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you, Sarah B. Thank you for becoming a member as well. And then let's see here. Schultz 1963. Thank you for subscribing. I am Ya 9. Thank you for subscribing. Eclipse Midnight and Tony Vance. Thank you for subscribing. A bunch of new people. Diana D. Thank you. Genius by birth. Thank you, Susan Big. Rahim L. Thank you for subscribing. And I see a lot of resubscribes as well. Shelly Robinson, thank you. Gordesum, and thank you, Bubba One, yesterday. Just Joseph McCorkle, thank you. Vanessa Stroller for subscribing. Lots of resubscribes. That it actually keeps track of when it unsubscribes people. It doesn't say when it unsubscribes, but you see old school Foogle fam that would never unsubscribe and are here every night, and they have to resubscribe to the channel. So I always try to remind you guys, if you can. We got emails. It was more last month. We haven't got as many now, but people were saying that the subscribe button was broken, and I'm not joking. It was they would hit it, they would refresh, and it would start over, and it would say they never pushed it. It would not hold it in the cache of the website. It was like they were hitting subscribe. It said subscribed. They refreshed or left the page. It was gone, and they were unsubscribed. Kind of shady if you ask me, but again, if that's happening to you, just make sure to sign up for our notifications over on our website, marfooglenews.com, and let us know if that's happening. Again, thank you. I think since we made kind of a big deal out of it, it hasn't been happening as much, which is kind of funny. But make sure you're double check you're subscribed. And then I don't know how much it is, but you're supposed to get every notification from YouTube if you push all notifications, the bell. Do all notifications, not some, which is on by default. Before we move on, this is a really, really great tool to protect yourself with. If you don't have an EMP shield on your car, this is a device that can protect you against all three phases of an EMP or an electromagnetic pulse strike. This is the main kind of threat from almost every one of our adversaries. They all have the ability to do this, and they've all either threatened to do this or the U.S. has wrote in white papers that they believe they could. So this is one thing that not only protects you from the man-made disaster of an EMP that could knock down our grid here in the United States and knock down cars and planes and all sorts of devices. This can also protect you against a CME or a Carrington level event from the sun. So if a Carrington level event happens, your car will still run. Your car will still get home to bug in or get out to bug out. It works on cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, generators, gas generators, and solar generators, the Energy Flex 1500 in the case of that. And it can actually be wired into your home. There's a special house version that will protect everything within 250 feet of where it is wired in. Go check it out for more details. Go to marfoogle.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Nobody else is going to save you when this stuff happens. Again, this is something that the government is putting on. The same company is outfitting DHS, DOD, and everybody's kind of hoping that the government and the military is going to help and save you when everything goes wrong. Go look at what happened during Hurricane Katrina. Ask somebody like able-bodied what happened, and you'll quickly find out it was not fun having the government save them, right? And they didn't have much of a plan to do it in the first place. And then don't run for president. Text message beamed on screen in front of Putin during live broadcast. Well, they say in front of him. He was in front of it, but text messages with rare criticism of Vladimir Putin appeared behind the Russian president on a giant studio screen during his televised annual phone-in. I don't know if this was a hack or something, but essentially there was a bunch of different criticisms and different questions that they would never allow one of the Russian kind of journalists to ask Putin. Putin would take their license away before letting them ask some of these questions. So I think it was a hack or some sort of internal hack or something. But viewers tuning into the marathon press conference directly challenged the Russian leader's reasons for ordering a full-scale invasion of UKR last year. It says, why is your reality at odds with our lived reality? This sounds like some hacker or something like this. Or it sounds like maybe this is actually photoshopped into this and they're making it up. Western media really wants to make it sound like every Russian thinks that Putin is just absolutely off the rocker, but many of these Russians are actually patriotic about them taking over Ukraine. Many Russians support this cause, and some Russians believe that they are not doing enough to take over more. There are Russians that are screaming, take over the rest of Europe, too. That is what's freaky about this. If you don't believe that they're actually trying to take NATO, you should look that Russians are saying that they should take the rest of NATO countries back, or at least take the Baltic states back, right? Another criticized the Kremlin's powerful propaganda machine, says, quote, Mr. President, why does the real Russia differ from the one on television? What does this sound like to you? It says last week Putin confirmed he would run, and he doesn't respond to it. He doesn't react to it. He doesn't answer it. It's behind him. That's what makes me think if this is either a hack or if it's like a fake clip or something that in 2 days they're going to cover and say, yeah, that wasn't even a real clip or something. It says, don't run for another term as president. Make way for the young. That was one of the messages behind him. Putin appeared not to notice the messages, which were broadcast on live television. One text message appeared to mock the Kremlin's own propaganda machine. Hello, when will it be possible to move to Russia, which they tell us about on Channel 1? This question won't be shown. I'd like to know, when will our president pay attention to his own country? We've got no education, no healthcare. The abyss lies ahead. What do you think that is? Like, this just seems even weird. Dex, it sounds like somebody hacked him or something.
Well, the way it was set up was they had actually asked for the public to literally text in their questions. It was supposed to be an annual live televised Q&A. So they were flashing up the questions that were coming in via text. But somebody's job is to actually filter those. Somebody's job is to make sure that you don't put the Haywood and stuff like that up there that are the jokesters, or in this case, the dissenters, and filter that out. And it looks like that didn't happen.
I like how he has not one but two lapel mics. I'm surprised that that's not like squealing from feedback or something. I didn't know you could do that. Two lapel mics.
They got to hear him in stereo,
Oh, do you think that's why? That actually is kind of crazy. Surround sound Putin. Putin surround sound. Vladimir round. Vladimir rounder sound. Vladimir rounder sound. Veranda Ramanda round. Draft Space Force NRO plan for tracking moving targets. Draft Space Force NRO plan for tracking moving targets floating around military. I see. Up to now, the bulk of military needs for imaging to track moving targets on the ground has come from radar sensors on aircraft. The Space Force is calculating the first take on how new satellites equipped with sensors to track terrestrial targets as they move would actually operate to get that data to users, whether they be military shooters or intelligence analysts, according to the Chief of Space Operations, General Chance Saltzman. It says, quote, we have written the first draft of our concept of operations for that. It is now floating around the Department of Defense and the IC, or intelligence community, for comment and connections, and make sure that we understand that. So the tech development is now going through the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, channels. The operational concepts are being developed by the Space Force. And then we're in continual collaboration to make sure that they meet in the center, he told reporters on Wednesday at the Space Force Association's inaugural space fair. It says this is a new type of capability. It's not completely the intelligence community supporting the Defense Department. It's not completely a DoD mission without the help of the intelligence community. It's this combination of the two. This means that the data is going to be available to whomever it needs for their operational purposes. That may be an intelligence analyst sitting somewhere that's going to do things that I don't ever want to understand. And it may be data that goes to battle managers to put against a target and have a shooter engage a target, Saltzman elaborated. After years of debate, the Department of the Air Force, which provides civilian oversight of the Space Force, and the National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO, are jointly funding the managing of the effort to develop new space-based ground-moving target indicators. So what does this all mean, by the way? If you're not understanding this, they are coming up with new systems to track targets on the ground. And this is a satellite tracking moving targets on the ground rather than the different radars and the things like this. They're going to be using satellites to be able to do precise tracking of anything moving on the ground. It's kind of spooky when you think about it. First thing I thought of was if you do try to bug out in the middle of the woods, we already know that between AI and the systems that they're programming, if a single leaf moves in a forest, if they select an area and they say, hey, we want to know in the last 72 hours, has anything moved? It will point out every single move of anything. So even if you are hidden under, tree cover or something, they will be able to detect you. Even if you are shielded from, heat sensors and thermal, they will be able to tell that something has moved in that area and track you down. That's why more and more people are like, even if we do bug out, it's not like they can't find us. Assuming that they have, of course, the satellites up and nothing happens to them. But this is the thing. They are talking about putting more and more and more up so they can track us here on the ground. It says sensors that can track in near real-time objects of interest like PLA warships in the South China Sea or Russian tanks in Ukraine. Current spy satellites are operated by the NRO, which we've talked about the NRO before. It's a very secretive office. It's a very unknown office. Not too many people know about it. In fact, the last 2 years, I've heard more about the NRO than ever before. But it says can provide snapshot pictures that show movement of, say, a column of trucks headed to North Korea's missile launching sites after the fact, but cannot persistently follow them in real time. The Air Force in the past has used planes to do that job, in particular the aging E-8 Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar Systems, or JSTARS, that currently provides targeting data to air, ground, and ship-based weapons platforms. It says the service is retiring JSTARS, however, and intends to replace it in part with the new GMTI satellites. So this work was done previously by planes and by different things, putting basically at risk, whatever planes or drones are doing it. Now it would be done by satellites. It says details about the planned new sensors are scant, but GMTI systems traditionally have been based on radars using a pulsing technique to discriminate moving targets from stationary objects, then clock their velocities based on their Doppler shift. I wonder how good that is for people to be sending different frequencies or whatever, not frequencies. What did they say? They said it was pulsing. What the heck are they pulsing us with? Under a deal struck earlier this year, the Space Force is developing requirements for the new sensors and will oversee the acquisition program's progress. Dex, I don't think we're ever in the future. You're not going to be able to go anywhere on the planet without being tracked or traced.
This is a huge deal, folks. This is it's almost, and this is buried. This isn't something that was real easy to find. Wasn't necessarily right out in the front. This is very important. If you think about when you see, even when you're watching TV and they, show you how like maybe SEAL Team 6 or something like that does something, and they call in a Reaper to give them Overwatch. that's that's legitimately how it works. Like they try to do that true to form. That Reaper's up in the air. It's got high-end cameras on it. It's giving them the ability to see things in real time, so they can see who's moving, whether it's thermal imaging or real imaging, et cetera. With satellites, they don't have the ability to do that. They can take high-res images, but they have to take an image and then take another and then take another, and they slowly see movement. And they have to reposition satellites. This and the most important thing in here is it's not just for the military. They say it's for anyone or the intel community, which then means the rest of the federal government, which to me means this when they build this and roll it out, they're going to roll it out in a way that it can be used everywhere. We're going to see constellations of these satellites all over the space, and they are going to be able to track movement on the ground anytime, anywhere. And if they want to know what's happening at your house, they want to know what's happening on your street, they're going to be able to do it, and they're going to be able to see it. And they're not going to have to launch a Reaper and put it up there or a Global Hawk or something and say, okay, go check this space out and give us feedback on what's happening in real time, and delay and get that. They will have it. And that's the scary part. That's where exactly what you said, Adam, that we're getting to a point where they're going to be able to track everything. And that's exactly what this is.
And so imagine there's been, I forget what Nicolas Cage movie it was, or no, maybe it was Nicolas Cage, but it was called The Humanity Bureau, and it shows a scene where I think it is Nicolas Cage. He's driving in the desert, and it's a supposed dystopian USA, and it looks like the Nevada desert, and he's driving along, and then a Predator drone comes flying right next to his convertible car. Substitute whoever the actor was. He's driving along the highway, and then a Predator drone comes down, or the other unmanned drone, big one, comes flying down, and you see that. And the reason why that's kind of a shocking image is we shouldn't be having those kind of drones monitoring U.S. citizens. We have them over in the Middle East monitoring stuff, but we're not supposed to have them monitoring U.S. citizens, especially without knowledge of it, right? Now, they don't need that. We won't need Predator drones monitoring the citizens of the United States. They have these constellations of these satellites going up, and I bet you that, again, Elon's probably going to help with that. He's probably going to be contracted to launch half of them. If not, I'm sure Jeff Bezos will take the deal at some point, or one of the other companies, right? So that's the scary part, is we won't be able to really tell that we're being watched and tracked. And
or better yet, what if this is the public announcement to let us know that they're doing the technology and they've already got it? It's already up there.
Yeah, which is very, very creepy.
It's sitting on Starlinks, or it's sitting on some of the other sats they've been secretly launching.
It's disturbing. Woman of Wonder, thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the super sticker there. Thank you again. Thank you. Mars World, thank you for your support yesterday. And I hope Heartbroken Survivor, I don't know if you're here tonight, but I hope you're doing well. I know you had to cut out early, and because it was, well, not early, but early in the show because it was late last night. I hope you made it here tonight. And thank you, CJ and Rip Curl, for being here. And, of course, Chance and Jammer. Amazon to connect Kuiper satellites with laser links to boost space internet network. So it's kind of funny we were just talking about the Amazon, the connection to all this space related news. Amazon will include a key speed boosting technology in its coming project Kuiper internet satellite. Is this the same Kuiper spelling? Isn't that the belt that they say that we can't pass, the Kuiper belt? Is that what it's called? Project, is that said Kuiper? Do you know, Dex? Is that pronounced Kuiper?
It is a belt, but it's not the one you're thinking of. You're thinking of the radiation belt. I can't remember the name of it. This one's way out. This is circumstellar disk in the outer solar system, extending from the orbit of Neptune. What is pretty far out, the Kuiper belt. It's a ring of ice
Van
bodies
Allen.
in the
Van
outer
Allen.
solar system. Yeah, you're thinking Van Allen.
Yeah.
That's the name.
Maybe Q Chris said that. Thank you, Van Alken. I know what you meant though. Kuiper belt says bend in it. Yeah, Van Allen belt. That's the one that they say that humans can't, or they can't pass through, right? It's one of the arguments. Started to high. Let's see here. Alan, genius by birth, beyond the Van Allen. I just thought it was Kuiper is something else though. I feel like that's has some other significance. But the coming Project Kuiper internet satellites, the company announced on Thursday. So they're essentially, are they competing with then Starlink then, right? It says the Kuiper satellites, optical intersatellite links, also known as OISLs or OISLs, serve as a way to transmit data through space. Laser links are a feature that Elon Musk's SpaceX began introducing in later generations of its Starlink satellites. The links help improve both the latency and speed of these networks. With optical intersatellite links across our satellite constellation, Project Kuiper will be effectively operate as a mesh network in space. Notice how all of these companies are putting these grids around the planet. Not to mention, SpaceX actually added hypersonic speed detectors on, I believe they said about 1 out of every 4 Starlink satellites. Why do they need hypersonic speed object detectors? For hypersonic missiles, for on the ground, or for hypersonic speed items like meteors and asteroid outside of our planet? Dex, go ahead.
Hey, there's a breaking thing in screener. You want to grab that. And just to comment on the Kuiper or whatever they're doing here, the traditionally these satellites have only been able
Oh,
to communicate
Jesus.
back down to the ground. This is giving them, and as Elon showed, this is giving them the ability to link, from one satellite to another and do it at a high speed, high data speed. So I think they said 100 megabits or something like that. Pretty significant. It's an advancement. It's you know it's going to be the future. It's the way we're going to see all of these. And Elon's already shown how it works because he's done it with his. How we're going to see these large number of satellites that are all working in concert together and communicating with one another.
I'm praying that this isn't anything. Oh, please let this be nothing. Explosion at Con Edison electrical substation causes widespread flickering lights across the city into New Jersey. Con Edison, that's the big company that runs that part of the grid. It says emergency personnel are currently on the scene after multiple reports of an explosion at a Con Edison electrical substation in Brooklyn, New York. Numerous witnesses described seeing a green flash followed by widespread lights flickering across the city into New York, into New Jersey. With some residents experiencing power outages, Con Ed crews are currently investigating the issue. Look at this explosion. Look at the smoke. People, I'm telling you, just get yourself ready for anything, okay? And they say, but around Christmas time, all this stuff may go down. Before a holiday, a Friday, like, I hope it doesn't happen, and I really pray that nothing happens, and I hope it's a nothing burger. And people are, it's January 1st, nothing's happened. I sure as heck hope it does not. This is Manhattan right here, Manhattan, New York. Okay, so people, please, listen to all of your peers here in the community. Listen to all of our peers here on YouTube. Have a basic plan. This I don't know what they're going to say that this is, but New York is heavily being watched right now. We've been talking about New York nonstop. Now there's been an explosion at the Con Edison electrical substation. You think it's an accident, people? Like, this is what we've told our friends and family about for a long time, and they're going to say, we don't know. I'm just finding out about this. They may say, oh, it was a glitch in this, or it was a transfer, an employee made a mistake or something. I wouldn't doubt that they're going to try to say that this is something else. 98% of all of the different attacks on our grid get pushed under the rug. We know this for a fact. That's something that can be proven by the NERC report. The NERC report that finally got released said it was like 7 years, there were over 500 plus attacks on our grid, whether it be somebody taking a pot shot, somebody driving into a substation, whether somebody was taking a drone, hopping over the fence, leaving a boom there, taking a shotty to it, whatever it may be, hacking, cyber events. All of these events went and were reported to the Department of Energy, and then the Department of Energy just right up and shut up about it and never said a word. They, of course, put it on paper, so it went into the NERC report, but it did not get put out to the public. Only 2 out of something like 700 attacks ever got publicized, and the 2 that did were cyber events that were publicly known about, and they couldn't hide it. So, like, stuff like this, people need to have a basic plan. Stuff like this should get the fire under your feet. You should have extra food, extra water. You should have a backup power source. This is why we've recommended it for years. Dex, do you see the cloud on that? I'm really hoping that that's just like a surge or something.
Yeah, they're saying that it actually plunged all of New York City into darkness, but it did come back up. It was only momentarily. Obviously, the power can get rerouted. So if it's just a substation, that's only going to be affected those that are tied directly to that. But yeah, it took out all of New York, and a lot of people were complaining, but then it popped back up. So it was short lived, at least to the main part of Manhattan. And now there's certain issues that are coming from it, but they're investigating it, obviously. And they said the police are on the scene dealing with the fire, and Con Ed said it's currently investigating the issue. So
By the way, somebody says substation cannot equal a whole city. I would say that may not be true, though. So it only takes 9 of the large transformers in 9 of the substation areas, 9 to take down the entire grid. The entire grid. So again, they've had issues at one substation and had power of whole towns of 40,000 go out. One little spot could be hit and could knock down a city. So I do think that entire cities could go down from one substation, but it depends.
and I've
on
seen that rerouting myself, Adam. I mean, like even where I live, when there's storms, we've seen transformers go out completely. Everyone loses power, but then the grid pops right back up
Yeah.
on my side of the street, but not the other side of the street because they're on a different segment, and ours was okay. But we went down just like they did. They just didn't come back.
Yeah, it switches. The problem and the big problems that they've seen, like in Texas, there's a movie about it, is like when there's just rare instances where they can't switch, or there's something wrong with where the power is routed through. Somebody had a question last night about like would an EMP affect nuclear power? Maybe not. Maybe nuclear power factory. I would think that they need regular power to power all of the stuff that keeps the nuclear stuff going. But say if it could run on its own without any external power, or create the power from the nuclear plant to power itself, to power all of the things that power it. Somebody said, oh, well, then just all have nuclear and then EMP wouldn't affect it. But the path, if it was to take power out from the nuclear power plant, once it leaves the nuclear power plant, everything in between is going to be affected by an EMP. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not the power generation. It's the induction of the wires that leave the power generation, and the induction on the wires that may be included inside the plant itself for it to function. It's induction on the wire that is the problem. And anywhere there's copper wire, you have induction. You have that induction, it sends a massive spike out to anything connected to it. And if you can't deal with that spike, then you get destroyed.
Some of the comments on this says, I knew something happened. Power flickered around 12 a.m. in Queens. So Queens, New York. Says that's why my lights flickered twice, and I'm in a decent distance north of the city. Wild. Let's see here. I have a feeling we're going to seeing a lot of this, Lori Love says. Con Edison said the substation fault, the brief fire caused electric lights to flicker throughout most of the utility service area in several facilities, including hospitals, LaGuardia Airport, and Rikers Island Prison Complex, reported that their electrical systems switched to backup generation during the event. So they actually went to backup generation during the event, according to this. Emergency personnel are currently on the scene after multiple reports of an explosion took place at Con Edison Electrical Substation in Brooklyn, New York. Numerous witnesses described seeing a green flash followed by widespread lights flickering. Currently investigating the issue. So, lots of comments, and if as you can look at the original one here, there is a ton of comments from all over. Some of these are very far away. Yeah. Investigator Earth podcast says that doesn't sound like a random accident. Tai Van Fu says, is anyone injured? I pray that everyone will be safe and that the incident will be quickly resolved so people can stabilize and be less confused. Probably Hamas related, says the right guy. So look, people are already commenting this, saying that it may be related to that, right? But we don't know. It's not good to speculate on stuff like this yet because, people panic really, really easy. It has begun. That's a perfect use of that, right? You guys have no idea. There's so much crazier stuff. I'm surprised some of my peers didn't catch some of the stuff in that. Yeah. Let the looting begin. Obama movies right. 2 more weeks. Ooh, that's not good. Buckle up. 7 hours ago, I don't know if this is related. Space News, the most powerful solar flare in over 6 years, was released from the sun. Hours ago, it was released a coronal mass ejection, which hit Earth on 17th of December, and as such, might bring some powerful auroras. So yeah, because once it happens, it takes about 3 days to get here, depending on the speed. I don't know if that would do it though. Not especially something like that. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, Wages just put out an update and told us that there's a massive plasma 4.55 mile per hour that'll hit in 1 to 2 days. So we're going to put a link to that on the website so anybody can go watch that update he just did.
Somebody said that EMP will not destroy devices not plugged in. I would say to make sure
depends on the size and the shielding of the device.
Yeah, I would make sure to research that because even laptops can be affected and knocked out, not plugged in or anything. That's why they say to keep them in a Faraday cage, which anybody can make a Faraday cage. You can do it actually pretty cheaply. A lot of folks they get Faraday bags, like the EDEC bags are now called off-grid bags for that kind of stuff. With EMP Shield, everything, if it is plugged in, you will be protected because it's going to protect everything on that the 250 linear feet grid. But as far as it depends, a lot of today's cell phones may actually be okay because of the size of those devices. But as far as bigger devices and computers and stuff, they can be fried. Dex, go ahead.
And it also depends on your location to the center point of the actual EMP. In other words, if they hit the sweet spot right over Kansas, which is where they say they will target to get all of the east and west coast, those right in the middle will probably get hit the hardest with the most amount. And your cell phone may not survive, but those on the east and west coast, cell phones may be perfectly fine. It just depends. It depends on the amount of those ions that come off of the ionosphere.
Well, it will most likely do almost nothing to us. That's the thing. It doesn't affect the humans. We've both learned a lot as far as we've talked to many of the experts on this, and of course we've had EMP Shield as one of our affiliates for 4 or 5 years now. So all of the different events and the times that we've had Andrew on and different experts on, we've learned a lot. And usually the only reason we know is because of questions asked by you guys, and then we find out from a lot of the data and the experts. So there are things like some people, there are things that you shouldn't worry about because they're, they won't be affected. A lot of folks, if you, depending on the year of your car might be fine. You may not need an EMP shield. That's why you always want to check before you get one, especially if you have an older vehicle. And then UK government considers crackdown on young teens' social media use. Okay, so we did have this. And I think I felt like it was France. This is the one I was confusing with France. Uh, but it sounds like a lot of this is like it sounds like they're taking notes from China. China has cut video games in China. Um, to Friday, 3 hours every week, to 1 day a week. And now Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's UK government is studying a crackdown on social media access for children under the age of 16, including potential bans, according to people familiar with the discussions. Minister plans to begin a consultation as soon as January to gather evidence about the extent of the potential harm to children from using social media. I actually, in a way, I support this. But I don't. It's like you don't want anybody to crack down on this kind of stuff from the government. Who should be cracking down on this kind of thing is parents, right? The government shouldn't be involved in parenting our children. Shouldn't be parenting the access to our children and to whatever they are doing. Parents should be doing that. Do you guys agree or disagree? What is your opinion on it? But as far as like, I think social media is absolutely affecting our children. I think it is absolutely affecting us as grown-ups, as adults, as big people. It says deliberations are at early stage and the policy may not ultimately not be pursued. I bet it won't. Because guess what? Big tech is going to get their long arm of legal and long arm of bribery into the mix, and they're going to squash this quietly. But they could make a big deal. I'm sure politicians in the UK will make a big deal and make their constituents think that they really support them and care about their children. That's the thing, though. The creepy part about this is under a guise like this, Rishi Sunak or anybody else could go in and change things under the guise of your protection or to make you safer. But then they'll end up doing something that affects all of us or affects everyone, right? The weirdest thing that happened a couple years ago is this entire platform and many others were affected by the COPPA thing, the COPPA advertising to kids. But yet I still see one of the channels that my kids likes, which is these two kids, an Asian kid and a white kid that do these videos, and I know their name. Gosh, I cannot believe I can't remember their name. One has crazy purple hair, and then the other is lanky white kid. They have tons. They have a deal with Target for their toys. They have all sorts of stuff. But every episode, they're pulling up one of their toys and saying, "Hey, kids, you these are really rare. You got to search Target for it." And they tell the kids, like, "Hey, go tell your parents to look at Target, and you got to look in Target when they come in, you got to grab them right away." It's like all this COPPA stuff went down, telling them, all of this stuff, any channel that was remotely aimed towards children, or if there was anything children toy related, anything, that they could fine you up to like $75,000 or something, or up to $250,000. It was insane. And it was a big deal on YouTube because everybody was like thinking, this is nuts. All sorts of collectible channels had to label that they're for 13 and over and all this. And it's like things like that end up shaking up all of the platforms, not just the people that are affected, like the kids. And a lot of the time it affects different speech and different censorship algorithms. Yeah, those YouTube kids are nightmares. My daughters are always getting stuff promoted to them. Make any trip to the store a nightmare. Yes, and they always say, "Oh, but I want it. This box, I saw it on this." That's why we are very limited. We always watch it with them, and we tell them when we see it, we're right there. We go, "Hey, they're promoting a toy. Like that doesn't mean you get it." Not to mention, we point out to our kids that hey, these are cheap toys made somewhere else. Like you want high quality toys, something that is going to last a long time, not some really crappy toy that was just mass produced to be marketed, in mass to kids that love something else and just threw it in there. Real quick, I do want to remind you, make sure to go check out Harvest Right. And I believe there's 1 day left. Dex, is there 1 day left? Is that it? Is it the 15th, right?
Yeah, it was the 15th. So yeah, get it while you can.
So there's the Black Friday sale got extended because they ran out. They ran out of certain units, so they extended the Black Friday $500 off on the Pro units. They ran out of the smaller unit and they ran out of certain units. So because of that, they ended up extending their Black Friday until December 15th. That's tomorrow. So I don't know if that goes until the end of the 15th. But again, make sure to go check out Harvest Right if you've been waiting on one of these. This is, again, an investment that everybody should go look into as far as if it's right for you. But as far as if you are into this and you do want to do freeze drying, then I would say get the best. Like, don't get something that's going to break down in a couple years. Get something that is going to be easy to use, that's going to be high quality, that's going to make food that can last 25 years. You can do it all at home for a fraction of the cost. This can pay for itself if depending on how much you are doing. If you are doing a lot of food, this is going to pay for itself because it is about a quarter of the cost of freeze drying your own food compared to buying even the most affordable freeze dried food. But if you are not somebody who's actually going to put the work in to do 3 months, 6 months, 9 months of food for yourself, then it may not be the deal for you. It may not be the thing you want to do. Maybe it's going to be more efficient for you to go with one of the packages and get freeze dried food. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. That sale ends tomorrow, I believe, at the end of tomorrow. I wouldn't think that they would have on the 15th. They wouldn't have that going. So I would assume at midnight tomorrow it ends. So make sure to go check that out. Instead of the $300 off that we usually get with our link, you will get the Black Friday $500 off with our link. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. And that is because Foogle fam that did try could not get one of the units. And again, they extended it for us. So marfooglenews.com/freeze. And thank you everybody that ended up joining us tonight. Thank you, Woman of Wonder. Thank you as well. Again, thank you, Sarah B. Thank you for becoming a member tonight. And thank you, Debbie357. I believe you're the top supporter tonight. And then thank you over on DLive, all of our wonderful, awesome people over on DLive. Thank you, Chance, for holding it down over there. And then thank you, Kiki Gray, for gifting a badge to Heartbroken Survivor, which looks like it did. She did make it tonight. J-Girl, that's me, Kimbria, Priscilla R, Fractured Fusion, and everybody else that joined us tonight. Thank you for the bells. I love that around Christmas time they change it to the bells. And then thank you, Dex. Thank you. Do you want to tell us how we can get to the web content?
Yeah, just go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, and it's there. Or hit the show notes link. If you want to be lazy, just open it up on YouTube or on the Humble and just look for the description and click the first link. It's the show notes. It'll take you right here, and including updates that we did in the middle of the show, like adding the Wages World video, which you guys got to go check out if you want to know about that big plasma hit that's coming in 1 to 2 days, 5 million miles per hour, big X flare. Check that out, as well as the update on what happened in Manhattan. It's all there on our website. Go to marfooglenews.com.
Yeah, that is not good. The X flare, the Con Edison explosion, it's all there right at your fingertips. Make sure to go check it out. Thank you guys. Love you. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marv out. DFW Jackie, I didn't mean to miss you. And Wackadoo, thank you for following. J-Girl, that's me. Thank you for gifting a badge out to Skyhouse. And thank you, everybody on DLive, for being absolutely amazing. Thank you for the ice creams and the bells. That is awesome. Thank you to your mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat right now for your wonderful mods. Shout out one of our great mods like Rip Girl or CJ or Trinity or any of the others, especially, of course, wonderful people like Ilea, Wages World, Lisa R. Hall, Bones, and the rest. Make sure to go check them out over on marfooglenews.com/friends. All right, you guys, be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Thank you, Dex. Love you.
Much love. Great job, brother.